Hey everyone, I frequently get asked this question and see it asked a lot online. How much do I need to save up for buying a home? Or how much do you pay as a down payment? These questions are well founded, but they aren't the right ones to ask. The right question is how much is responsible for me to afford towards buying a home, and how do I determine what that amount is? That is what I will be breaking down step by step in this video. Now, for my first time viewers, here is a quick introduction about me. I'm a 32-year-old homeowner, bought my first home in 2018 as a 25-year-old, and fast forward to today, I have now bought a total of 9 homes, 5 of which I moved into as my primary residence. While living in each home for around a year, I rented individual rooms in that home, allowing me to save towards buying an average 1 home each year for my real estate business. And this is what separates me from any other real estate investor, and why I relate more to home buyers over an investor. And that's because I go through the same steps that any home buyer goes through. The only difference, you ask? Well, I've done it 9 times and have learned a lot that I wish I knew when I bought my first home. This is what inspired me to create the above guide for home buying video, where I outline very clearly the entire process on what it looks like to buy a house. The first step I covered is around financial planning, but I didn't have the chance to go deep enough into that topic in that video. So in this video, we're going to do just that. Let's start by giving credit where it's due and encouraging you to look into one of the most recognized financial educators out there, Dave Ramsey, who I'll be seeing in person later this year backstage at the Fox in Atlanta. Can't wait to talk with Dave around homeownership, personal finance, and real estate. I strongly encourage you to subscribe to his channel and to listen to his podcast for a wealth of financial knowledge. Dave has outlined his 10 steps for buying a house. Let's look at the first 3. In my opinion, homeownership starts with financial readiness, which Dave nails as step number 1. He also advocates that you should not have any debt prior to buying a home. But I take a slightly different approach here. Whether you have debt or not is not the important part here. The important part is to demonstrate to yourself that you have financial awareness on the debts that you have and how it is impacting your monthly expenses. It's okay to have student debt and buy a house. It's okay to have a car loan and buy a house. It is not okay to have outstanding credit card debt or personal loan debt before buying a house. Those are the silent killers when it comes to finances. The reason for this is because buying a home is one of the most expensive things besides taking out student loans and having children that you will have in your life. And having either credit card debt or personal loan debts are indicators that you don't know how to manage your expenses and adhere to a budget, something that will come back and bite you in the later. Another of Dave's steps is that you have saved up around 20% as a down payment for the home. Recently, given the lack of home affordability, Dave has amended this to say that for first-time home buyers, you could probably be able to put down as little as 5 to 10% down. I couldn't agree more with this tip, because the thinking behind it is that the more you pay as down payment, the less you will pay each month for the mortgage, and therefore the less interest you will have to pay throughout the lifetime of the loan. However, there are 2 really important factors that will contribute to determining how much you should put down. We'll cover one of those later on, but the other one is what the interest rate will be. If interest rates ever go back to being low, and we are talking sub 4% interest rates, then putting less money down may be a very good option. Let me tell you why by using real life experience. When I started my real estate business back in 2018, between then and 2020, I was getting home loans as low as 2% or as high as 3.5% on a 30-year loan. Given how low these rates were, I intentionally was putting as little as 5% down on homes, with one home where I used an FHA loan to put down only 3.5% down. This is really smart when interest rates are this low for 2 reasons. First, you don't compromise how much home equity you build up each month. This means that each month when you pay your mortgage, more than 50% of it goes towards paying down the house and not towards paying interest on the loan. For example, when I secured a 2% loan on this home and I put down 3.5% down, I was still making more equity every month from the mortgage than I do in paying interest on the loan. Second reason, that money that I saved from putting as a down payment, I can now use to pay off outstanding debt or to invest it somewhere, potentially in a place that is more liquid than home equity and has returns higher than the interest rate loan. One example that is a relatively risk-safe avenue is an ETF, similar to Vanguard's VOO, which has an average return of 15% per year. These two reasons make putting less down on a home a no-brainer when interest rates are low. But Dave Ramsey's advice in putting 10 to 20% down in times like now in 2025, where interest rates for a 30-year term are as high as 7%, is the right guidance. Just look at the stark difference in my most recent home mortgage that I have purchased. With a 30-year, 7.25% rate, the monthly interest makes up a shocking 69% of my monthly payment. That's insane. In times with high interest rates, it's better to put more as a down payment. But even if you can't, don't get discouraged because you won't be stuck with that interest rate forever. As long as you plan to live in the home long enough for interest rates to go down, home refinancing is a very straightforward option to lower your interest rate, resulting in more of your mortgage payments going towards building equity over paying interest. I go much deeper on the topic around home refinancing in the above video, and I strongly recommend you to check it out. Let's now get tactical and in a step-by-step manner, show how you can answer the following questions. How do I know how much I need to have saved up to buy a home? And how much of a home can I responsibly afford? The very first guideline that you need to work towards is to save 3 to 5 months of living expenses. This should be stored in a near zero risk and highly liquid or accessible location, preferably a high yield savings account, not the stock market and not crypto. Please, for the love of God, not crypto. These savings are intended to be for emergencies and should be separate than the savings you want to have for paying the down payment and closing costs of a home. The reason for having this much is because, well, life happens. You may have an unforeseen medical expense, an unforeseen car repair bill, job loss, major appliance repairs at the house, and so on. But the actual amount to have saved up will depend on your specific circumstance. For example, I have a very stable and consistent source of income, many different investments that I could access money from, and already have a very rigorous budget and expense tracking habit. So I only keep 3 months of living expenses in my emergency fund. However, someone that may work in a job that heavily relies on bonuses or a 1099 type job like contracting work, or not have a good habit around budgeting and expense tracking should likely aim to have 6 months saved up. Now, the caveat to this is if you aren't budgeting and tracking expenses, you won't actually know what your living expenses are. So that is step number 1, folks. Track every expense and determine what your living expenses are for at least 3 months. Then from there, use that to create a budget that keeps you focused on balancing spending and savings to meet your goals. In the above video, I share how I create and update my budget over time using Microsoft Excel, as well as how I track my expenses. I strongly recommend you check it out if you aren't doing these things yet, but also encourage those that are already budgeting and tracking expenses to see a different approach to doing so. The outcome of this first step is knowing how much you can save towards buying a house each month and how much you project that you can afford each month towards a mortgage. Now, everyone's budget allocation will look different, but in general, you want to strive to have no more than 30% of your monthly income going towards paying rent or mortgage. Feel free to follow along with me in this example. I'm going to make the math easy and assume a monthly income of $5,000 each month, which comes out to be around $60,000 in annual salary. Sticking to this 30% rule, this tells us that we can afford $1,500 each month towards paying the mortgage and home insurance and property taxes. Step 2. We now need to determine how much money we can take out for a loan that matches this amount. To estimate this, let's go to an amortization calculator like what you see here and enter in the information that you see behind me. I'll use a 30-year loan at 7% interest rate to reflect the market that we're seeing at the time of this video. Note that your credit score will greatly influence this rate, so do some research on what your interest rate might look like depending on your FICO 5 credit score. Yes, folks, mortgage loans use a different version of FICO to determine your score than what credit card and car loans use. In my ultimate buying guide video, I go deeper into how your credit score can heavily influence buying a home and why I recommend first getting your score above 700 if possible. I'll finish entering these numbers and see what it projects is the monthly expense. Note that this number doesn't include property taxes nor home insurance, so you'll want to aim slightly lower than, in this example, the $1,500. I'll continue changing the loan amount until I land closer to the $1,350 to $1,400 range. Okay, in our example, I have landed on a loan amount of $210,000. Now we can take this number and add the amount that is saved up for the down payment and closing costs. This will inform us what the maximum amount for our home is that we can responsibly afford, which in this case is $260,000. Okay, now that we know what we can responsibly afford, it's time to check to see if the price point is realistic with your must-haves in a house, including, but not limited to, location, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, whether it has a garage, or whether it is a single family home, townhome, or condo. Fortunately, we have all the tools out there like Zillow, Opendoor, Redfin, and so on to help us with this search. But if after doing this research, you find that the maximum home price that we determine isn't enough, please don't worry. Thanks to what we have covered with this methodology, now you know that the maximum price point can increase in one of two ways. First, you can save up more for the down payment and closing costs. Second, you can increase how large of a loan you can take by either improving your credit score, increasing your monthly income, or waiting for the interest rate to drop. Trying to time interest rate movements is the worst thing that you can do because lower interest rates means more buyers entering the market. This means more competition, bidding wars, and ultimately leads to higher asking prices. However, if you have a credit score lower than 750, getting your score higher can have a huge impact. Just look at how much more of a home one can responsibly afford by lowering an interest rate from, say, 7% to 5%. Without increasing your income or without putting more down, you can now responsibly afford $100,000 more for a home. Let's recap things. This framework that involves budgeting or saving for a down payment, expense tracking, and doing what you can to lower the interest rate will allow you to set aside emotions when making this very important financial decision. Because even though buying a home is a very personal thing and a huge milestone, if done without intentional planning, it could become a massive financial nightmare. If you found this information helpful, folks, please go ahead and like this video and go ahead and share it with others. Also, consider subscribing to not miss out on any future content around home ownership, do-it-yourself repairs, renovations, as well as content around finance and real estate. As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and till next time.